By 97, spectators were starting to complain about the amount of empty beer bottles being thrown from the pitch, so the club decided an endless flow of beer from a keg would be a better option. Little did they know the effect it would have on the club and its president, Mark Charlton. It also saw the club register its first hat-trick by most alcohol consumption winner Bill Coulson from the winning The Rest side.
It's amazing what some of the guys will do to get there. You know, we've had guys come in from Europe. We've had Matey fly in from NZ. Prenda was on his honeymoon, 97. He's cut his honeymoon short to come down and play. You know, that's how dedicated and loyal he is. You know, he's a legend, old Prenda.
Well, we had to come back for the cricket.
Good man, another good man. That's the dedication we get in the clubs. You don't, in the Barbarians, you don't need to teach this stuff. It's born into you.
So we spent a week in the Whitsundays, got married the week before, came back for the cricket, flew back in on the Saturday, played cricket on the Sunday, and then we continued the journey to Adelaide the next day on the Monday. So it was a brief stopover, but well worth it.
We also placed the plaque by the tree at half-time. I got this old plaque. It was an old footing from a council bench, you know, big hunk of sandstone. I borrowed the Hilty from work, chipped in, you know, Rivy Street Cricket Club, the date. We carried it over, marched it over. The Johnnos were there, Prenda. We marched it over, put it by the tree, put this plaque by the tree.
Action.
I better fill this up.
Johnny, come on. Where are you, mate? Johnny! You're missing a corner, mate.
No, you're all right.
Go. Never has there been a ceremony like this since the death of Diana recently.
I'm trying not to.
Second to that, this has been the biggest procession.
Besides Diana dying, this is the biggest event in Concord. I'm trying to do a couple of...
Which one is it, man? Everyone pray, please. Everyone bow.
Bow your head. Bow your head, commoners. Bow your head, you commoners.
On the ground.
Sam and Rushdie. Dog contest looking like.
You dance on the ground.
Oh, yeah? I'm through to try it.
Ready yet? What are you doing?
Is this a backyard swimming pool or what? Righto, good. Johnson's boys are ready, Mark. That's off. Water, mate. That's off. That's off. Oh, over the heart.
Could we have 5 seconds?
You boys get back.
Yeah, when the plaque, I remember the day the plaque was laid. It was almost one of the most moving ceremonies I've ever been involved with, until they came down to the official opening, where normally in an event they cut a ribbon. The boys decided they could pee all over it, and that was something different. It wasn't like throwing a champagne bottle onto the bow of a boat. The cutting of a ribbon of a bridge. I've never seen anyone urinate on a plaque as an official opening.
And we'll be back to the cricket right after this break.
This is a one-off. Swearing ceremony, that.
You can go away now. This is a private moment.
Yes, well, Richie Benno, well.
There you go. Yes. Yes. We are legends.
John, get up.
I remember early in the games that due to the fact that we were consuming a fair bit of alcohol, and we'd always have to give Mrs. Jono a ring. Mrs. Jono would turn up because at that stage women were not sort of encouraged to attend. And Mrs. Johnson would dutifully turn up, boxes of beer for us. So the next year I thought we might progress to a beer tent. And I remember contacting the publican at the Bath Arms and asked him could he supply us a nice 9-gallon keg and go out of his way to come down and tap it and bring a few jugs, which he did, and we had the beer tent set up.
Yeah, I remember the kegs. I remember the kegs because that was the year I wasn't drinking that year, and I remember the kegs coming down, and I do remember that they ran out fairly early, and we had to go and get some more.
Yeah, the Barbarians made a mess of that. They fought free beer, and they just made a mess of it. It was quite disappointing the way they acted around a keg. It was like they'd never seen one before.
Yeah, I think the Copperbom's got a pretty good, got a bit robbed out of that because the Barbarians are the ones who were doing all the drinking that day. It's pretty much the same every year.
The fielding team were out fielding, so they couldn't have a beer. The batting team, though, apart from the two that were at the crease, the other guys were in the beer tent, drinking middies out of the Temperite. By the time it come to change the batting pair over, the bloody keg was empty. It fair income. It had lasted an hour. The batting team who were yet to bat were blind.
They chipped in a bit more, and I think they ended up with another keg.
I've rung up the publican in the Bath Arms, says, mate, we need another keg, bring another keg down. So he's come down at about 11 o'clock, the second keg, and that one only lasted an hour and a half. So its centres broke. It took me years to pay that off. We had to pass the hat around again. I think Jono's rung Mrs. Johnson. She's come down in the old Gusmobile with 2 cartons of grog. Going, here you go, boys. And to this day, I think she's the only woman allowed on the field because she's only allowed to bring more beer.
It was just hectic.
I remember the morning till about morning tea. After that, it's a bit of a haze.
Yeah, we gave it a bit of a slash outside off. We normally, have about 12 beers per man per day. So, yeah, we get into the spirit of it.
Billy, he made the most of the keg. I think he got the inaugural most alcohol consumption award that year.
I think Billy Kilson might have got a hat-trick that year, and I think he was most alcohol consumed because he was off his guts, and I think he might have had a fight with Keith later on in the day. Oh, no, that could have been Johnny Goulding. But, yeah, I think after that, the kegs were barred.
Now, that's something I do remember, and I think Billy on that day took really good figures bowling, and he took this miracle catch. I can't remember exactly, but I remember he did something unbelievable. But yeah, all heavily under the influence of a lot of alcohol. Good on you, Bill. Shows a lot of effort. He's a Coulson. They're tough, hard nuts.
Billy Coulson's a bit like Matty Gray. You've got to have him in the squad. The Coulsons are like the War brothers. Just, older, not as good, not as talented, not as much money, but otherwise they're the same.
It was, I remember there was fights, there was a lot of vomiting, and I think even the old president, he actually even as an assassination attempt.
Oh, mate, those blokes, they want to fire up and that and take on poor little Marky. He's been everyone's sort of hero. Like, he's running the joint. Like, he's the president of the club. And if we all knew what was going to happen, one of us would have put our lives in front of his just to save him.
It was a sad year for me and for the club. I remember, I think it was the break of half time or the change of batting pair. I was walking over to the pavilion, and I noticed out of the corner of my eye, a group of hoodlums were sort of gathering, and I'm thinking, what's going on here? As I walked off, this group sort of come up from behind, and next minute it was on. It was a shout of rumble or get him.
Everyone else thought it was all in it. It was just bodies everywhere.
But he's brain damaged anyway in the start, so, poor bloke. He works for the government, he hasn't got much going for him.
Yeah, like everyone says, it's the attempted assassination attempt. I would have liked that to have been successful. That was disappointing.
Tony Lovey's come over the top. The Vardy boys are in there. It was terrible. I was worried. I was, fearing for my life, and I got up the boys rolled away, and I had blood flowing from a gash above the eye. You know, I could have lost the eye then, and by that time my bodyguards had arrived. They cleared the rat bags away and took me to the safety of the beer tent, you know, and a couple of beverages, and I came good. But it was a sad day. It was a day I'd like to forget. It was just a sad day for the history of the club.